Yeah, that's great. Thanks ever so much, everybody. I know that would have whizzed by in double quick time. So I do hope you enjoyed your conversation there. We're going to hear briefly from the people who've been selected to feedback. I'll go in order of your names on the notes, everybody. All the facilitators will should know that, but I will prompt you anyway. Elaine, if we could come to your room first, please.
Hi there. Yes, we did have 3 facilitators in our room, but we had a very interesting conversation, so it was really good. Our main takeaway was around education. We felt it was really important to remove barriers to entry to education and get the right skills in place for younger people, and also people who wish to retrain, to inspire them. And having a 21st century curriculum was really important, that perhaps education hadn't caught quite up as fast as technology and needs were developing. And we also felt that it was important that there was a place-based focus to make it relevant to the people who needed those skills and as they're learning, and it would help inspire them. We did also feel as well that on the procurement side of things, that social value charters are really important, and managing your supply chain through that was a good way to go, and that's something I know the council is working towards.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Rosie, if I come to you next, please.
I was in with Elaine, so
oh, there we go. That makes it easy. I know we didn't have quite as many numbers in the end of facilitators needed, so thank you very much. George, please.
I was also in with Elaine.
Oh, there we are. That makes it easy. James, then, please.
Yeah, so we had a really good conversation. Talking about repurposing of road space for natural capital and community green space, as well as first and last mile being a kind of the key issue. Making sure that bus and trains are kind of more aligned. There's a better pricing structure. But I think that our key takeaway was all environmental challenges can be traced back to behavioural change. So there's a really good suggestion of how wouldn't it be nice if we could see more behavioural scientists and psychologists at these types of conversations, and potentially on some of the key city boards as well, like the place board. We've got plenty of expertise at the University of Exeter. We could quite easily make it happen, just so that we can always bring it back round to that behavioural piece, and that might help with Tony Greenham's point around kind of the term clean growth of what terms should we be using? We don't want to use anything that alienates people, and be realistic about things. So yeah, that's it for me.
Lovely. Thank you very much, James. Mick?
Yeah, Emma Osmondson is going to give you the priority. Lively discussion.
Thanks, Emma.
Hi, Linda. Yeah, we had a great discussion in our group. Our main takeaway is really the ask is to have a really clear, articulated vision for the Exeter that we see in the future. We feel that this will help garner support. I mean, all of us in this discussion today are kind of champions of the future of Exeter as we see it, but we really need to get people on our side. So by clearly articulating what the Exeter of the future will look like will help us communicate that a little bit more effectively, to get more people pulling in the same direction, and to start inciting some of those behavioural changes. And I think most importantly, not to be afraid to trial some things and test things out, give them a go, and take some of the learning that we've had and experienced before. For example, Ian Alcott was telling us about when they closed Paris Street for the Princess Hay development, and at the time there was a huge amount of hoo-ha and concern that Exeter as a shopping centre would collapse, and the end result was something that has really enhanced the city. So I think clear articulated vision, and take some risks and to trial things out, and for us all to support it.
Sounds great, thank you. Andrew Hardwick.
Hi Linda, we had a really good discussion, covered lots of areas. I think transport, changing people's habits, shopping habits, living habits, how they interact, what they consume were big areas of conversations, and that sort of fell into two parts, both what is in the short term in the next couple of years, but also the medium term up to 2030. In terms of the sort of key takeaways, I think it boiled down to 2 points, which we all agreed on, was the need for action, and that to be quick and start happening, and some big action and, you know, leadership decisions to be made. But also the key to its collaboration, in terms of it's going to take everyone doing their part, and critically the ownership of those projects. It's everyone doing those bits sort of locally, and the power and the decision making and the process for those projects being a local thing as well. So that was the sort of summary of our discussion.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Andrew. If I can come to Victoria, please.
Thank you, Linda. We had a really good discussion on the term of what does clean growth mean, and is it right with the ambitions of around 2030 to be net zero? And we talked around the term of clean transformation, so transforming into something better, which goes forward with the discussion that Rachel mentioned about a better place to live, a better place to work, study, and to visit. And we talked about not a lot of people in terms of the general resident population are engaged with clean growth, and what does clean growth mean to them. And there's a negative perception from them that it's an expensive thing to do, and it's a very middle class thing to do. So how do we get away from that perception of it's just a middle class thing, and how do we support those who are struggling financially to embrace this? And also around the loudest voices tend to be, and this is a very generalization, tend to be the negative voices. So people don't really understand the benefits of what it means around clean growth net zero, which then brought us on to the second point around having positive ambassadors, like as what Emma mentioned, us here on this roundtable are positive ambassadors around clean growth, clean transformation. So it's about how do we put them front and center as part of a wider comms campaign, and it needs to be inclusive. So it's all age groups, all types of businesses, and all types within that social sector within the city, and having real tangible illustrations and case studies as to what clean growth means for Exeter. So what do we do as Exeter City Council, Devon County, and our wider business community? Upskilling, we talked around that of needing upskilling within the city to ensure that the new types of businesses, we've got the skills for those, kind of talking about the area that Gary mentioned, and the need to nudge businesses to change, as an example, to get businesses to build to passive house standard. Is that a change in national policy, or is it about encouragement of those businesses to do that? And that's it from me.
Lovely, thank you very much. Covered a lot of ground. Calcadan, I think Mark's Wi-Fi gave out. Are you okay to feedback for your group, please?
Yes, sorry, I wasn't expecting to. Okay, so we discussed the need of having a carrot stick approach when navigating to our net zero goals. So there are going to be individuals prepared to take advantage of the changes that are coming. Some of them will need incentivization and support, and that needs to be easy to access, well facilitated. And then there are going to be people who are going to potentially have things to lose, at least at an immediate level. And rather than them playing the force of restricting our ability to collectively reach the net 30 goals, we can take a much more proactive approach and support them either through some measures that require them to change, or through incentives that enable them to change too, and this is at an individual organizational level. We discussed the need to have a real focused centralized government and council support in this. I think everybody in this conversation today has been in this area, working in this area for a long time, and what I think we all need is clear leadership, as we've discussed, but leadership that attributes, responsibility where it's due, so that when we're talking about our shared goals, if there are kind of limitations to being able to achieve them, that's addressed actively and isn't, we're not passive to it. So we used the retail industry, the housing industry, for example, the the frequency of landlords who aren't building to more energy efficient standards because they're not paying energy bills, and the warped incentives that create was an example that we used to raise the need of holding responsibility, but also understanding that there are some opportunities to incentivize as well. Like, for example, can we incentivize landlord behaviour through council tax breaks and things like that? So yeah, that was our group. Push and pull strategies needed.
Lovely, thank you very much, Kalkadan. Sorry to spring that on you. And Alex Thomas.
Hi, yeah, really fascinating conversation in our breakout room again. Thanks to all who attended. I guess downside to getting later in the chain of reporting back, but ours focused on a lot of what Elaine and Victoria have fed back, so the sort of educational and behavioural side of things. But I think I'd like to report back is, I guess, the practical ambitions from the group. It was that purposeful and measurable solutions are required now, before the required transformational alternatives are readily available. So it's the notion that we have to start today, and that small incremental changes will eventually get us to the end goal. Education was obviously key to that. Good debate on whether or not hydrogen versus electricity, what avenues we should be going down, what potential solutions are readily available now. But I think a few good points that it's not just about physical changes and funding. The focus has to be on collaboration, which is where we started today, but it's how we bring the other 80,000 residents in Exeter along this journey. So yeah, really interesting to see the notes and the outcomes of this meeting.
Lovely, thank you, Alex. Please do not worry, they will come. Those notes and outcomes will be coming your way as soon as they're written up. Annabelle, please.
Hi, Linda. I'll try and keep this short as I've noticed the time we're running out. So yeah, another really interesting discussion within our group. But the main thing we focused on is that we need to have larger projects that make the biggest impact. But then we also need to enable the infrastructure to do this. So these projects include things like hydrogen points, so adding hydrogen to the grid, which we said that Exeter could actually be leaders in solar power, and then other environmental projects. But as well as this, the digital skills are equally as necessary. But then these people also need to be trained. We need to understand how we're going to train them and who we're going to train. But also what's really important is we really need to understand what is already going on, so there is no doubling up. So yeah, as a quick summary, it's focusing on the larger projects that make the biggest impact.
Lovely, thank you very much, Annabelle. Catherine.
Hello, can you hear me, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the themes, Alex, your group talked about came through. So I'm just going to talk about the string of themes that we picked up, which was really about building a groundswell of consensus for this. We had two different versions of it. One was preaching beyond the converted and the other one was reaching beyond the converted. So whichever one you go for, it's about taking all the strategic stuff that we're talking about here and turning that into something that's meaningful at a ground level. So some of that is behavioural stuff and just general interaction and community engagement. So building consensus. A part of that was, there was a comment about listening to the complainers, really, but actually there's some positive stuff in there as well, and we need to find the positive. So I guess there's quite a lot of work to be done there, but that engagement, that community piece, a couple of strap lines about building a city portrait of who exactly we need to get out and talk to. And the output for that would probably be a very, very simple communication plan that would enable us to change behaviours and say to Joe Bloggs on the street, here's a list of 10 things, 10 behaviours that we would like you to have a think about and see if you could just do one of them. And it's those simple things. And if everybody is making a small contribution, then we will start to see an overall change. So it was really about how to get people on board and move the strategic stuff to things that we can see in our everyday lives. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Catherine. And just finally, just to conclude the feedback, just to talk to you about the discussion we had in my group, and just to go straight in for our top priority, really. And I think it echoes a lot of the conversation that you guys may have had in your groups as well, because certainly we're talking about a place-based focus and for the need to look at the networks that we've already got. So through education, through the community, tap into that knowledge and know how and work out how to share that knowledge so we can bring people along with us for the journey.